Hi everyone, Kevin McDonald here and welcome to PPTV. Obviously he doesn't need any introductions, but today on PPTV I've got the man himself, Mr. Rob Moore, co-founder of Progressive. So this is also going to be a podcast, so I'm going to talk to Rob a little bit about stuff that hopefully other people don't always talk to him about. Lots of people talk to you, Rob, about branding and social media and podcasting and stuff, and Mark's the property guy. But property to you, so what's your favourite property investment strategy?
Okay, so first off, property is the thing that kind of changed my life. And whilst, as the years go by, people think me more for other things, property was the one thing that built everything for me. I met my wife because she was reading my property book in the gym. I met my business partner, Mark, at a property networking event. So property is in my blood. And, Mark and I, obviously, we joint venture on all of our properties. So people see him doing it, but they don't see what I do behind the scenes, and vice versa. My favourite property strategy, I don't like being painted into that corner, because in reality, all the property strategies that we teach work, otherwise we wouldn't teach them. But I don't want to evade your question. So my personal favoured property investing strategy is commercial conversion, because that's what we do. And that works for us because it works well in Peterborough. There's good deals that need planning, and we've worked out how to get the planning, and we're doing one that's 85,000 square foot, could be up to 160 units. Another one that's sort of, I think, 40,000 square foot. It was pound land. We bought the Marks and Spencer's building, and I loved single lets for many years. But when you've done loads of them, you kind of hunger to scale up, and your time isn't worth just doing a single let when you can do...
bigger stuff.
Exactly, bigger stuff. But you have to move up there.
Yeah, so when you started, you did single lets?
Yeah, for hundreds of them. I don't want someone to look at me and go, Rob's doing big commercial conversions, that's what I'm going to do, if they haven't done a single let yet. But of course, buying no money down, that's not... We teach it as a strategy, but it's not really a strategy, it's a way of buying. Rent to rent is a way of buying. So a lot of people confuse strategies. They think, well, I'm going to do rent to rent, or I'm going to do no money down, or I'm going to do lease options. But actually, no. What you're doing is a way of buying a property.
Yeah.
Whether that, rent to rent is just circumventing needing a deposit. Obviously, lease options is circumventing needing a deposit. So we use all of those strategies within the strategy of commercial conversion.
So I say that to people a lot, is that they want to do single let, but they don't have the money to do it. So you do it as a lease option.
Yeah.
So absolutely.
Or a JV.
Yeah. You've been doing property now for 11, 12 years? More.
December the 15th, 2005 was the day my life changed. The last week of that year, I met Mark at my very first property networking event. And in February 2006, I started my property investing career properly. Working in a property company and buying with Mark. What is that? That's 13 years nearly.
A lot of people, me included, see you sometimes as like a machine that you're constantly giving content. There's a lot of companies out there that do stuff, but they don't even know who the boss is. But here at Progressive, it's very clear that Rob and Mark are the bosses. You see them all the time. But you lead by example massively with constant content. What is your why, or why do you do it?
Okay,
what drives you?
Yeah, look, I'm just trying to be me more every day and be comfortable with who I am. And I don't know how deep you want me to go with this, but again, transparency is really important to me. So when I was a kid, I was really overweight and I felt like I was quite badly bullied. I now realise I wasn't that badly bullied. A lot of it was in my head, but I was the fattest kid in school. And when you're the fattest kid in school, there's nowhere to hide because people don't take the piss out of the second fattest kid in school. So I was the butt of everyone's jokes. But I wasn't always, but when you had it enough, you just assume everyone's saying it. And so I felt like a bit disconnected from school, from friends. And this was at the age where I was just getting into girls, so I never got the girl when all my other mates did. And I felt I just didn't feel appreciated, loved, respected. And I lost all the weight in a summer holiday. And I was a completely transformed person visually. Like, you wouldn't recognise me. Except the nose. But I still had the need to be liked, the need to be respected, the need to be known, and linked to that, the need to help people. And that never went away, and that's still here today. So I've retired loads of times, and property is the thing that probably gets you retired the quickest. And anyone who's followed my journey for the last 10 or 15 years will know I've retired, and then I've been bored for a week, and then I've started again, and I've retired, and I've been bored for 2 weeks, and I've started again. And each time I create a little void of space and time, I fill it with a book or a podcast or a new launch or a new course or a new mission. So really, my why is trying to earn respect and love from people, and that just won't go away. But instead of beating myself up about it, I try and think, well, that's who I am. And what that helps me to do is, that means I'm closely connected to the community. That means I always create new work. That means, I probably fix problems and, we're not perfect, but probably overall better customer service and better community than others. Because if I didn't care about what people think, I wouldn't have to care about being involved in the community, and I could just retire and everyone else could do the work. So I still have this need. I mean, there are other things. I love property. I love business. Like even in my hardest days, last week I had probably the second hardest week I've ever had in business in the last 13 years. The second hardest week, and it's supposed to be easier and bigger and better now. I'm a multimillionaire, but I had everything I've ever done thrown back in my face about a week or two ago. And some of it was fair and some of it wasn't fair, and I didn't really get a chance to express how I felt about that. But never once did I think I don't want to do this anymore. I've had enough, I don't want to do this. Even in my second hardest week in 13 years, I'm like, I still fucking want to do this. And no matter how hard it gets, it makes me want to do it even more. So it makes me somewhat belligerent, and the harder my challenges are, the more motivated I am. Now that I have a bigger brand, it's great. I have many celebrity friends, and I have pinch myself moments all the time. So I am living an amazing life, and like if I can't be grateful for that, I need to be slapped. You have permission in front of everyone. If I turn into a diva or a twat, and some people might say I am already, or I'm not grateful every day of my life, no matter how hard it is, you have permission to slap me, because I live a fucking amazing life, and I have hardships in my life, but I live an amazing life. So how could I not want to keep doing that? I could go more, but ask me another question. You don't need all my baggage. I
said to you, I sat at the last Super Conference 2013, I sat in the room near the back so you wouldn't spot me. Over 1,000.
I still walked to the back though, probably got in your face. Yeah.
Over 1,000 people in the room, and you, Mark, but mainly other people as well in the community. Because I used to see you as up there as like, oh, well, it's easy for them guys maybe, but obviously it wasn't, but I didn't know your story. But lots of people I've met in the community that came through that journey with me, sat in the room with me, have got financial freedom sense. And now I meet people and say, oh, it's easy for me. But actually I know I sat in the room. So you and Mark were massively inspirational to me, as well as the people that were just a little bit ahead of me on the journey, the VIPs that day. Who's inspirational to you, though? What are the people that have inspired you? Obviously, not including myself.
Of course. Well, I was going to say you. So should I do second, third, fourth?
Second and third,
fifth? Yeah. Okay, so I'm actually inspired by everyone in some way. Now, I've idolised people: Arnold Schwarzenegger, James Caan, John DeMartini, Andreas Panayotou, and 3 out of 4 of those people have mentored me in some capacity or another. But actually, I try not to idolise people anymore, because when you idolise people, what you're really saying is, I want to be more like them. Whereas I want to be now the truest, most connected person of who I am. Right. Every day is like self-discovery on who I am. So I've had a lot of great mentors, many of them worth £100 million plus, billionaires, and I try and learn something from everyone. But actually, I'm inspired by everyday people. So, and I feel like inspired by people who are inspired by me. And I've just got goosebumps about what I'm just about to tell you. But I mentor someone on a marketing mastermind, and he phoned me up and he said, look, Rob, I've got a bit of an issue. Could I have you some help? And I was like, cool. And I always make time for people. And I've got a lot of demands on my time, but I always make time for people if they're really struggling. And if you're ever really struggling, don't like say, hey, Rob, I'm really struggling, have a 15-minute call with me and then pitch me something. But if you're really struggling, I'll cancel whatever I'm doing and I'll make time. And someone phoned me up and he said, we've just found out that our 2 kids have been abused. And I was like, fuck. And he wanted my help and we had a chat. And I just, whilst it's really hurtful, I felt inspired by him. He didn't lose it he didn't break down on the phone. He was quite circumspect. He was trying to find a reason for it. He didn't blame himself too much. And he said, like, look, Rob, this has meant a lot to have this call. And, thanks for the advice. And I felt like, whoa, that's not advice. But like, he got something out of it, but I got something out of it. And he's just a normal guy. And I spoke to someone today on the phone. he's been really struggling. He's a friend of mine. And he's not really got anyone else to talk to. And he just sent me a message saying, hey, look, Rob, at 6 I was abused. I was tied up and put in the back of a car at 6 years old. I got into drugs, I got into alcohol. I've been arrested on 18 counts. Tried to commit suicide. My first wife died. My second wife is like really, really ill at the moment. And just shit after shit after shit has happened. And we had a chat and I shared with him some of the challenges I've had, which are not as hard as mine. Sorry, his are worse than mine. Mine aren't as hard as his. And I got inspired by him. I'm inspired by everybody watching who has to take rejections from viewings, and finance gets pulled at the last minute and you feel like you look a bit like of an idiot in front of your agent who you promised the deal would be done. I know I could have just said I'm inspired by everyone, but I had to. So I am inspired by everyone. You can learn something from everyone if you stay humble enough to look at someone and go, I can learn something from you. And people do say I learn quick, and people do say I'm pretty prolific. And actually, there's no secret other than learn from everyone. You can borrow something from everyone, even if you taught them, even if you perceive that they're not yet at your level. And so I'm inspired by everyone.
Awesome answer. You started like 13 odd years ago. We've got all these big offices, but you started in your house, wasn't it?
Yeah. I was £50,000 in consumer debt, credit cards and car loans. And Mark and I started Progressive Property in a tiny little room in my tiny little 2-bed house.
So that journey
we bought
alone.
IKEA furniture. We put 200 quid in each. Mark put 200 quid because he had it. I had to put it on my credit card because I didn't have it. And that's where Progressive was started.
One of your, I was getting marketing emails and stuff, as a lot of people do, from Progressive from about 2008. And I actually did nothing until 2013, 5 years.
That's why we send so many emails. Yeah. People, you send so many emails. We'll open them and respond to them then.
5 years before I went there, but I remember having one. I still have a picture of in your house where you had this huge computer screen with other computers and you were sitting behind a little desk, but it was in your house. And I have that somewhere for whatever reason, I don't know.
When all is said and done, more is said than done. And to know and not to do is not to know. The easiest person to lie to is yourself. So, look, if you want to get ahead, you've got to put yourself out there. And I've got many things I'm not good at. And I make quite a lot of common mistakes. Thankfully, most of my mistakes have been small and recoverable. And I've certainly learned in business it's okay to fail and it's best to fail small and fast. And I think a lot of people are scared to fail, so they don't fail small and fast. And I fail small and fast and regular. But I don't fail by going bust or screwing people over on massive JV deals or whatever. So let's put failure into context. So the way Mark and I got ahead quickly, because we rose from no training company to being the biggest property training company in the whole country probably within 5 or 6 years, which is probably unheard of. But I put myself out there a lot. Went to a load of networking events before social media was big. Put myself out there on Facebook, even though I don't like how my chin and my beard and my head looks on social media and all the bad veins on my face. I've got my own fears and insecurities like everybody else, but I'll put myself out there. And so that's what we've been doing over the years. And I've been to hundreds of events. I've had dozens of mentors. I've done hundreds of courses, spent hundreds of thousands of pounds, or rather invested it. And the thing is, you don't know where you're going to meet your JV partner, or you're going to learn your new strategy, or you're just going to, that blockage, you don't know when you're going to overcome it. But you ain't going to do it if you don't get yourself out there. Because, no one becomes a millionaire in property just reading at home. You don't meet your JV partners. They don't knock on your door going, oh, Rob, I saw you on Facebook. I'd just like to say I've got £1 million. You've got to get yourself out there.
Awesome.
All right.
I think we're coming towards the end. That's been phenomenal. Thank you so much for taking the time out. I know you're really busy, and you've been listening to PPTV, and whatever you're doing, speak soon.